going to go through and walk through some of the different housing drivers in terms of putting together our forecast for 2020, for the rest of 2024. So I'm going to break it down into 3 different segments so you guys can take them in with me. And the way that I've done this, I've color-coded it, so the things that I think are positive for us are in green, the things that I think are negative for us are in red, and the things that I think are kind of in between or changing, I think are more, we'll have that in the yellow color. So you'll see that as I add the other 15 market drivers. So overall economy, if you look at Texas overall, we're still in the business growth cycle. So right now our growth cycle is at 5% growth, which is very strong for us. Austin's at about that same level as well. Consumer confidence, they say anything above 100 is good. Right now the US is at 115. So consumer confidence, that's how good do we feel about taking our wallet out and buying stuff, and judge based on the fact that we still have some, inflation, right? People are still buying plenty of stuff. Unemployment rate, so anything below 5% is solid. In fact, the government calls anything below about a 6% unemployment rate full employment, just because it's just the natural state of things with people moving in and out of jobs. Right now the US is at 3.7, Texas at 4, Dallas and Austin 3.5, Houston 4.2, San Antonio 3.1. Job growth, are we creating jobs? Yes, for sure. And the US 1.7% job growth, Texas 2.7, Austin 2.6. I do worry, in 2020, Elon put on a cowboy hat and said, I am a Texan now, right? And all of these companies and all of his, a lot of his employees started building up, here in Texas. And and now Elon is trying to move his company from being a Delaware-based company to being a Texas-based company. Does anybody kind of follow that at all too? So that's kind of very interesting to me. But I will say, Elon is more than a little fickle, and I do worry that if somebody upsets him in Texas, that he might take off his cowboy hat and take off his cowboy boots and move somewhere else. So when you are, under the, and I don't want to say control, but when you're affected by someone who's fickle, there can be a little bit of risk there, right? So that does kind of worry me, but we have had so many other companies move here that I think we're still in pretty good shape. But I will tell you, during the tech bubble of 2000, a lot of the people that, Austin was hit harder than any of the other market areas, just because we had so much, we were so emphasized in that area in terms of our job demographics. Stock market, yesterday was not a great day for the market. I know the Dow went down 1%. I think some of the other, that was Tuesday, thank you. And then today it was up, so everything looks up about 0.5% for the S&P, 0.5% for the NASDAQ, and 0.2% for the Dow. So, but I think it has been a bull market, right, for the last several years. We've seen some ups and downs, but overall, that question of, do I feel rich? I think a lot of people have felt that way, and for those of you guys who stayed in Bitcoin after the Bitcoin drop, you're probably feeling pretty good yourself there too. So that's kind of that indication of how rich do we feel. So 2023 ended strong. When it comes, and so now you're seeing some of the red and yellow that I was talking about. Interest rates, high rates or higher rates diminish affordability, right? So for every 1% increase in the interest rate, that equals a 10% reduction in your overall purchasing power. So that does have a big impact on us. Right now it is red, but it is forecasted to probably go in the yellow zone soon-ish, right? So Fed Chairman Powell has been resisting. He has taken his foot off of the increasing interest rate gas pedal. He's coasting right now, but he has not yet put the brakes on, and he's resisting putting the brakes on, even though a lot of the people who are making predictions about it, have been saying, oh, there's we're 50% that that they're going to start bringing them down. I think they'll bring them down too, but probably not for at least another 3 months. And again, that just kind of depends on you guys. If you stop spending money at Starbucks and at Target and at Walmart and at Amazon, and I don't want to hurt any of those companies, but I think that's the fastest way for us to bring in some of that inflation down as well. The housing price trajectory, so down to flat. So I went through many of the numbers with you. After the year that we had in 2020, 2021, and 2022, it's just 2023 just it was rough in terms of the number of sales, right? And there's a saying, and I can't remember which president said it, but he said, if your neighbor loses their job, that's called a recession. But if you lose your job, that's called a depression, right? So it depends really on what side of the coin you are on. So if you had a house that was sitting on the market longer, which means racking up holding costs, you were probably kind of on that depressed side, right? But the overall U.S., Texas, pretty much flat last year. Some of the major markets in Texas, Austin specifically, San Antonio specifically, down. The closed sales trajectory, so if you look at 2023, the number of houses that sold were down, and again, that hurts. We are so blessed, and this is part of perspective. In 2008, 9, 10, and 11, people were not as committed to staying in their houses for two reasons. Number one, the housing payments were higher because they were 7%, 8% interest rate mortgages. And number two, they didn't have equity. So a lot of people said, I don't have equity. In fact, in many cases, folks had negative equity in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. So in some cases, they just threw their house back to the bank, right? They let it go to foreclosure, which ballooned the inventory. And when you balloon the inventory, supply and demand, what happens to prices? They go down or they flatten out. So they flattened out mostly for us here in Texas. But because people are so in love with their 2, 3, and 4% interest rate mortgages today, and because on average homeowners have at least 20% equity in their homes, what are they not doing? They're not giving it back to the banks. They're not letting it go into foreclosure, which pulls those prices down. Instead, they're holding on to them, which has been good to hold up those average and median sales prices. Pending sales trajectory, so some of the markets were up, some of the markets were down. It was very mixed for last month, but it is looking better. We're already starting the year better than how we started 2023. Active listings, are they increasing and at what pace? Are we building more houses? So right now I'd say that's in the yellow, so we have more active listings in most of the markets than what we've had in a very long time. But they're still at a pace that, or at a level that I would say meets the demand that we have. And a couple other items in here, months of inventory. So again, that 6 months is that 40-year average. Texas is at 3.4. Housing permits, are we under or over building demand? In 2006, 7, and 8, we way overbuilt. So we actually jumped to about a 9-month supply of inventory in those years. Right now, being in the 3 to 4 months of inventory, we're still in really good shape. In fact, it's so interesting. So even though in all the markets in Texas, number of total sales were down, it was really a tale of two markets. It was a tale of the existing home sales versus a tale of the new home sales. So new home sales were actually up significantly year over year last year because the builders are playing with the interest rates and the point buy down, and they're playing the game better than, for example, a regular homeowner who's doing a one-off game versus the builders are playing iterated games with the same lenders, which is resulting in better marketing and better results for their overall sales. And sales are down for existing homes because, again, a lot of people don't want to let go of those 2, 3, and 4% interest rate mortgages. They're just saying, well, I'd like a different house or I'd like a better house, but I can't keep the same payment that I have with the interest rates that are out there today. In fact, I read a fascinating article in the Wall Street Journal about 2 months ago and it talked about people who were getting divorces, who could not move out of the houses that they were in because they got a 1, 2, 3, or 4% interest rate mortgage. So they were divorced. They were living together separately in the house because they couldn't, afford to anything else. They couldn't get anything cheaper because of how interest rates have changed. So it's kind of changed how we live together post-divorce as well, or how people live together post-divorce as well. It's kind of interesting. In migration, are more people or businesses coming here than leaving here? People are moving in. Businesses are moving in. In fact, our governor and the Florida governor have been doing something kind of tricky and super political. What is that? What is that they've been doing? They've been busing and flying people who are crossing the border to other cities. How do you think that affects us here in Texas? Somebody's paying for it, yes. What else? Those people aren't buying real estate, but what?
They're renting.
They're renting.
Illegally, probably.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to establish citizenship to rent to someone, but what is now out of our economy? What do most of these people cross the border to do? Come here to work their asses off for us, doing all the things that we don't want to do. So if we don't have more people who are doing the things that we need help doing, right, what are we going to see with those prices? We're going to see them go up. And if you look, are there any contractors, any general contractors in the room? Just curious. One. Sir, may I ask you a personal question? You look about my age. How old are you? 62. What is the average age of the general contractor and subcontractor? 25. Used to be maybe 25 years ago. Today, you're looking at them. And with stopping people and sending, I'm looking at these people who we're sending, to other states, and I'm like, but we need the ones that want to come here and work their asses off, right? I want those people all day long. But what's happening is a lot of people, I think, over the years have said, and for me, I was socialized like, Shanoa, don't work with your hands, work with your head, right? All of the returns in life are, from working with, your brains, right? So I'm going to send your big brain to college because, you're going to need to get a job, you want to work for somebody, you want security, and being a plumber, electrician, foundation company, that's not acceptable, right? And how many of you guys were probably told that too? Be honest. Probably most of you guys. So we've socialized our way out of what? Having people who will work with their hands, having people who will do the hard work. And a friend of mine is an orthopedic surgeon, and he was having a dinner party. A couple months ago with some really fancy people in town, right? Some really fancy people in town. And during that dinner party, someone put something in the toilet, and the toilet backed up with all these fancy people in their ball gowns, stuff like that. So it's an emergency. So he calls a plumber. Plumber comes out. What's the problem? My house is being flooded. I got this. This is a disaster. I need you to help me immediately. Plumber goes in, fixes the problem, and getting ready to leave, hands his bill to the orthopedic surgeon. Orthopedic surgeon looks at the bill and says, "My God, man, you make more than an orthopedic surgeon." And the plumber looks at him and he goes, "I know. I used to be an orthopedic surgeon." Because think about it. Have our plumbing contractor prices gone up over the last 5 or 10 years? Definitely. Have our electricians' prices gone up? Yes, definitely. And it's so interesting because technology has brought down the cost of so many different things, right? And I think about this computer that's, here in front of me, 40 years ago, you couldn't, you couldn't get a computer like this, but you would be paying, if you could, probably $25,000. Today, you can get one of these computers for $1,200 to $1,500, right? But if you think about how technology has affected housing, are the prices of air conditioning units gone down? No. Are the prices of water heaters gone down? No. Are the price of roof shingles gone down? No. Is the price of the wood that goes in the framing gone down? No. Is the price of cement gone down? No. Do you guys see any scenario where, and has dealing with the city of Austin, your holding costs has gone down? No, right? Right? So in fact, it's gotten worse. So, it's going to be really hard for us to see any decrease in housing prices because everything that goes in it has gone up in value regardless of what's happened with technology. And the people who are doing the work, and this is going to sound harsh, sir, but they're aging out, right? It's like, you don't want to that's exactly what I'm saying, right? No one wants to get up in your attic unless you're going to, in Texas when it's 140 degrees in there, unless you're paying me really, really, really well.
Folks just to show up.
And say it again?
Knowledge is specialized knowledge.
Yeah, it's specialized knowledge is specialized knowledge.
You're going to pay for somebody to do it.
For sure, but if you think about what the cost was, 20 years ago before everyone said no. Like being an apprentice, right after you're an apprentice, you might be making anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year, while the person that you went to high school with is getting $80,000 a year worth of college debt, right? So it's really done some things to flip us around. So I think that, so I have that in yellow because I think that is an issue that's going to be affecting our ability to do renovations and affecting our ability to build new for a very long period of time, because it is so, it's not biologically hardwired, but it's become socially hardwired. If you think of China, what's China's biggest problem right now? Population. So they implemented a one-child policy about 40 years ago, and now everyone has said what? Well, this one kid thing, this is kind of cool, except for who said, no, that's not working for us anymore, because their population is starting to go like this. What's the worst thing that you can have for your economy and your real estate market? A declining population. Ask Detroit from 14 years ago, right? So this is something that I think is going to have major impacts for us for probably the next 10 to 20 years. And of course, we've got some wild cards. Interest rate decrease amount and timing. And we have someone, and I think, I will applaud Fed Chairman Powell because he was trying to engineer for the last year and a half something called a soft landing, where inflation goes down, but employment is good, GDP is good, and we're not like spiraling into a recession. Has he done that? Yes, very expertly. Do we still hate him? Yes, we do, especially for those of us who are in real estate, right? So, and remember, the housing market usually takes the escalator up and the elevator down.
Well, history repeats itself.
It goes up at half the speed that it goes down, or it goes down at twice the speed that it goes up. When they were, so I am curious when they start adjusting for inflation. They were taking 0.75% increases, right? I'm wondering if they're going to take that same stance coming down. We still haven't reached that under 2% number, that target for inflation. We're still in the high 2s, low 3s. So I don't know that we're going to see any, and I think a lot of people were predicting earlier in the year that we would see some reductions there. But there is some question about that. Of course, we've got an election, a rematch of two interesting candidates, and war. So seems like more war and scarier war. Who in here was with AT&T last week and lost your and your phone went out? Okay, a couple of you guys. You know, it's funny because it's like I mean, that didn't bother me because it made me super focus, but it worried me, like, oh shit, like this is something that we really rely on. And I'm thinking like a hacker got in, something's gone really wrong here. And then what happened was it yesterday or today? Yesterday or the day before? Facebook went down.
Super Tuesday, that's why it crashed.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering, like, is Zoom next? It's like I'm trying to think, like, who's, because this is like something's up, and it's and I got a message from AT&T, a text message from AT&T. Did anybody get that text message? It literally said, "We're trying to do better." Did you get that text message?
I have Verizon.
I mean, no, you were like waving.
Yeah, I wasn't affected by it. So
Yeah, you weren't, but did you get that text message like, we're trying to do better? Yeah, look it up. I mean, like, I was like, it was so, I mean, like, and no one, they still haven't said like why they went down. I don't think I've heard.
I think it was cyber attack.
You think, but they're not admitting, they're not saying that, right? Yeah, so,
Also, Spectrum, I heard, went down the same,
oh, Spectrum too.
right before the AT&T crash.
Oh, wow.
Spectrum, then AT&T.
Kind of makes you want to go out and order some toilet paper, I'm just saying. War, the Ukraine-Russia war, I think that's going to be here's what Russia has. They have staying power. And they will, and they don't care, at what rate they're going to lose people, and yeah, I think it's going to get uglier, and then of course what's going to happen with inflation. So I think those are some yellow things and some wild cards there for sure. So those are some of the things that I look at, and that every time I do a kind of a detailed market update, those are the categories that I look at, and just to say, where are we? So the forecast for 2024, I think we are right now at the bottom of our housing cycle, and I say that because I'm starting to see several markets where we're seeing increase in the number of sales. We're seeing some still flattening out or small increases in some areas of our average and median prices. And we're starting to see a little bit of a pivot point in terms of our days on market. Interest rate decreases, I wouldn't expect them before kind of midsummer this year. I would not be surprised if interest rates drop by up to 1%. It really just depends on those inflation numbers, obviously. Sales, I think they're going to start to rebound as we see those interest rate decreases. My guess is that if we do see those interest rate decreases, even a 1% decrease will increase your purchasing power by up to 10%. If you're looking at what the payment is under each one of those situations, so that will bring people back to the market. So I can see those number of sales rebounding up to 5%, and I can also see the prices starting to come up as well, because we have done a good job of not overbuilding versus in 2008, 9, 10, we did a terrible job and really overbuilt the market and had too much inventory and had a lot of price pressure on us. But this time we really don't have that. And I will say, if we see prices going down, I think that would, and you know, a lot of this is more of this than ever, could be a manipulation from the standpoint of new builders have the ability to bring prices down. What do they do to do that? It's super simple. They just reduce square footage, right? That's it. Right? That's it. And that all of a sudden the house is now more affordable. And so that's some of the things that we're seeing. For us, we've got 65 different marketing strategies that we've used and created over the years. And they change based on where we are in the market cycle. We have 12 different investing strategies that we've used, and those also change based on where we are in the market cycle. And I want to go through what some of those look like as well. So let me just pull up that slide. Give me 1 second to see if I can get this going here. For those of you guys over there, I know it's an eye chart, but we brought in this one right here, so I'll kind of walk this around. This is my husband's an engineer. You couldn't tell that looking at this, could you? So this is our real estate investor blueprint. It's some of the 272 different things that we learned about investing since we started back in 2003. You can take a picture of it, but we've got some here for you. I think we have some here for you. So this breaks our business down into 6 main categories. So there's a category of strategy and education. So we've got 12 different strategies that we have used as real estate investors over the last 20 years, because when my husband stopped working 20 years ago, he did not want to update his resume and go back to work for anyone else. And when I stopped working shortly after he did, I also decided I did not want to update my resume and go back to work for someone else. So we had to have different strategies to be able to figure out how to make money every time the phone rang, regardless of where we were in the market cycle. So some of these strategies work best in a up market. Some of these strategies work best in a down market. Then we've got in the middle here, the marketing, the actual marketing itself. There's 65 different marketing strategies. You guys are probably all here for the silver bullet. I hate to tell you, but there is no such thing, but there are a lot of golden BBs. And you have to have multiple marketing strategies to get all those golden BBs so that you can have the opportunity to use one of the strategies to be able to buy and sell a property. This lower section down here goes through what we call sales and negotiation. It's the exactly what to say for the real estate investor in terms of the different ways to be able to close on a deal that will cause a seller to and cause you to make an irresistible offer. At the bottom here we have analysis and due diligence, because your fastest way to lose money, which Warren Buffett says is the #1 rule you should not break as an investor, but the fastest way to lose money is to not do your due diligence properly. I'm curious, how many of you guys are working with wholesalers to find your deals? None of you, some of you. Okay, this is especially for you guys. The fastest way to lose money on a deal is to buy it from a wholesaler who has a conflict of interest. So the conflict of interest is they only make money if you believe their ARV, their after repair value. They only make money if you believe their repairs, right? How much it's going to cost to get to that after repair value. And typically what they tell you is it's the highest ARV that's ever existed in the neighborhood, regardless of the fact that it's right next to an apartment complex, a duplex, a major road with a yellow line in the middle of it. And then the repair amount that they give you is the repair amount for what's called a make-ready repair. A make-ready repair is, let's make it ready for a rental property. It's not going to make it ready for getting that highest ARV, which they also gave you. So for you guys who are looking at deals from wholesalers, just know that there's a conflict of interest on their side, which is they only make money if you believe the BS that they're typically telling you. So you have to make sure to do your own due diligence. You have to have an investor-friendly realtor on your power team to make sure that they can tell you this is what the repairs are actually going to be. And you have to have a great contractor. He's had to leave early because Luby's was the senior special for contractors was expiring soon. So you have to have a great contractor on your team as well, just to make sure that you get that property repaired and maybe even a great architect too, who knows how to deal with the city, just saying. The analysis and due diligence, this will make it or break you as a real estate investor, so knowing your numbers is critically important. The financing side is this middle section, section 5, which is all the different ways to be able to finance your deals, from using cash, to using home equity line of credit, to buying subject to using a self-directed IRA. Does anybody in here have an old 401k from a prior employer? Anybody? You know, you can move that over to a self-directed IRA company. For us, we use Quest Trust. They're local, homegrown, Texas-based. They're based in Houston, but they have offices here in Austin and in Dallas. And when I left corporate America, I moved my self-directed IRA over to them. All you need is what's called a separation of service, meaning you quit or you get fired, right? And your 401k is now freed up to be able to do different things with it. Now, you can't invest in like cars and collectibles and that sort of stuff. You invest in a lot of different, very strange stuff, but the thing that I use it for is investing in real estate. You buy rental property. You can do loans to other investors. You can invest in syndications, Class A, being a Class A shareholder in a commercial syndication, multifamily, or whatever asset class that you're interested in. So there's lots of different ways to find money. A lot of people don't realize that, oh wow, you can use this for, it's like, yeah, you can. And it's kind of cool to be able to do that. And then this last section here is what we call the operations side of the business. So this is where you go from swinging a hammer in your business to hiring somebody else to swing that hammer for you and outsourcing as much as you can, because everything needs to be done. It just doesn't need to be done by the rainmaker. And at some point you will realize, hey, I am the rainmaker, and I should be outsourcing all of these minimum wage activities that is getting in the way of me growing my business. So